Welcome into the DNVR Rockies Player Preview Series. Joining me is Kevin Henry of RoxPile and Call to the Pen, Kenneth Weber of Purple Row. I'm your host, Patrick Lyons. And today we've got quite the amalgamation here, a smorgasbord of topics, bullpen, new guys, Randal Grichuk. But let's start off with Alex Colome. He hasn't gotten a lot of publicity here in the early part of spring training, but he looks to be a guy that maybe can follow in the mold of Greg Holland in 2017, help fortify the back of the Rockies bullpen, made the All-Star team when the Rockies went to the postseason. Wade Davis, not an All-Star, but led the charge there, or rather, he was in the back of the charge in the ninth inning as the closer for the Rockies in 2018. Can Alex Colome be that guy as the closer of the Colorado Rockies?
I think Colome could be a guy who could turn out to be their most important offseason signing.
Wow.
Even more than Bryant. I mean, I'm just going to throw that out to start with.
Yeah.
Because this bullpen needed something. And I think Bud Black needed something where he felt confident in a ninth inning, especially after all the trouble that there was last season. So I think if Colome can perform up to standard, yeah, he could be a more important signing for where this team goes than Chris Bryant.
Yeah, fifth worst ERA, fifth worst FIP in all of baseball last year was the bullpen. They couldn't do nothing and just head into 2022 and expect things to change. Colome, there's been enough years of watching bullpen volatility in baseball as a whole that they're taking the chance that he's the guy. I don't know if they're right or not, but they needed to fix something. And if Colome is that magic button that they press, it's going to make a world of difference for this team.
I think he's very old school because we don't see guys that are just like true closers. The numbers might be a little bit ugly, but nevertheless comes in, can lock it down. Like Jose Mesa was a guy, generation before that, Lee Smith. And so, again, the numbers might not be great, but you're like, hey, this guy will get a save. If it's not a save situation, he could walk the ballpark and give up a bunch of runs, which we did see with Wade Davis there. But on a one-year deal for what they're paying and for what they need, Colome really could push all the right buttons for the Rockies this season.
And will Colome elevate Carlos Estevez and some of the other guys that need to be those setup guys this year? Because, at spring training, Estevez was saying, of course, he wants to be the closer. They all want to be the closer. So is he going to be a guy who's motivated by a Colome coming in to pitch even better this year, that if a Colome was to stumble, that he could slide into that role?
Yeah, I also like the versatility that Colome has in his career. There's a lot of closing experience with him, but he's also taken a step back in the past couple of seasons with some contending teams of filling as a setup guy when he needs to, being a stopper, being a closer. So there is a little bit more flexibility that will allow Colome to fit in as he's needed. It makes sense to have him be the closer, but you know what? If he is lights out and you need to nip that rally in the seventh inning, he can pitch in that role too. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of good fits that Colome can fill.
Fourth most amount of saves in baseball over the last 6 years, 155. Alex Colome. That's huge. And to your point, Kenneth, that was going to be one of my questions here with the bullpen and getting a slightly larger conversation. Do you see the 2023 closer for the Rockies on this roster? Because you feel a lot better about their arms. Bard is in his final year before he hits free agency. Same thing for Carlos Estevez. Colome only has 1 year. But of the other guys left in the bullpen, I think there's some projectability. Could you see one of those other guys stepping in that ninth inning role? If not this year, but maybe at some point in the future?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think specifically Robert Stevenson, which apparently he goes by Bob now, which doesn't feel right.
No. But not Bobby or
not
Robbie.
Bobby.
No.
Doesn't like that.
No, Bob Stevenson. So, I honestly, out of everybody in the bullpen, it really feels like that's a closer that you can see happening in the near future for the Rockies.
And I agree with that completely. And just like we got used to Joshua Fuentes, I guess we'll get used to Bob Stevenson. But
I won't.
but I do think that, and maybe this ties into bold predictions a little bit, I do think that Estevez shows what he can do this year, and I think he's that guy that then they do bring back next year as a 2023 closer. I think he is on the roster right now.
Yep. Yeah, they have a group right now of guys who could be a closer in different settings and different situations and may at various points in their career. I had some hope about the bullpen last year for the young guys, and there was some projectability a little bit. Are you feeling confident about the bullpen right now going into this season?
More confident, maybe is a better way to put it.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's put it that way. I still think Daniel Bard is a huge wild card. I think that Bud Black, like it or not, loves his veteran pitchers, and he will ride them. And I think that it will take Daniel Bard really imploding, much like he did last year, for Bud to take him out of a certain role. But I think if Kenley can be the guy that he flashed last year, I think with Stevenson, I think that there's a lot of ifs, and I'm more confident in those ifs happening maybe than I was a year ago. How about that?
Yeah, and I think that there's been a bit of a wave of arms coming, and we're just really starting to see it find footing. I agree with Daniel Bard, and honestly, the tender deadline, it was a little surprising that he was still around.
Agreed.
Because I think that Estevez has taken over a bit of that elder statesman of the bullpen, that veteran, that leader of the bullpen, and so it almost felt a little redundant between Bard and between Estevez, and I could see Estevez being the one that sticks past this year. But the last thought, I think there is a little bit more confidence in the group as a whole, and it kind of feels like there's a closer by committee brewing with just how many names and known commodities that they have at the back end of that bullpen.
Yeah.
While I've got more confidence in this bullpen, I also have more confidence in the GM in going out and fixing the situation if he needs to, and acquiring someone even before July. In fact, that's my bold prediction. I think no matter what happens, I'm going to say that Bill Schmidt goes out and he gets another arm for the bullpen before July 1st. That's my bold bullpen prediction, because I think Ty Block's going to be great, but he's already been a bold prediction for me so far in spring training.
No, and take out what happened to Pat Neshek in the wild card game that will haunt Rockies fans forever. Take that away, but what he did in the regular season to get to them to that point, that was a big move. So I think that could happen, but I also think the Ben Bowden's such a wild card. Justin Lawrence is such a wild card. There's so many guys out there, especially with this expanded roster to start the season. How much will they be able to prove and maybe lock on? And let's not forget Lucas Gilbreth. He gets overlooked so much. Is he a guy that can duplicate his success from last year? I think that's a big part for this bullpen as well.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. There are a lot of young arms that maybe haven't had their moment in those high leverage situations. And I think that Black will be able to insert those guys in a position to succeed. And I think Gilbreth, being the number one lefty and being as good as he was last year, I think out of everybody that I'm most confident in, as long as Gilbreth is put in a position to succeed, I think he'll just continue to thrive. So I think more guys like Lawrence, like Gilbreth, can start taking over those high leverage situations and be that big addition without having to go to an external source.
Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit to another newcomer here on the Rockies. Randal Grichuk, last year with Toronto, batted .241, 22 homers, 81 RBI, only had a .281 on-base percentage. Slugged .423, which was still more than Charlie Blackmon. How important was this acquisition? How important is he going to be in the lower middle parts of the lineup, 5th, 6th, maybe even 7th?
I think that it's almost a luxury, it feels like, with Grichuk, because it made sense with Tapia, with how many outfielders we had being able to be moved. Bringing in Grichuk, I think Coors Field is going to be a great environment for him to be the best hitter and put up the best stats that maybe he's been able to put together. I also think that the plan has to be that he is a right-handed platoon option off of Sam Hilliard. And so maybe, speaking of positions to succeed, they're able to balance Grichuk and Hilliard a little bit more and put them in the best position. So I think it's a great environment definitely for Grichuk to go to.
Yeah, and that's such a great point, because I remember when the trade was announced, I was like, okay, what does this do to Sam Hilliard's development? And then you start thinking about the potential of a platoon and giving him the chance to succeed and get to that mentality that I can do well. I don't, and the strikeouts may happen, but still I'm going to be put in a position to succeed. And I think that's going to be so important for not only Grichuk, but Hilliard as well this year.
Yeah, that acquisition checked off the 2 boxes, more power, another center fielder. But, Sam Hilliard, even Hampson, even Daza, go ahead and put those guys in center field. And just because Grichuk has been doing it for the last few seasons in center with Toronto, slot him over to right field, go to left, whatever it may be. He doesn't have to be out there because defensively in center field, he might just be average at this point.
And the beauty of the DH, right? I mean, we've talked about that so much that they can move people around, and I expect them to move people around. Absolutely do. And I think Grichuk is a guy, depending on how he fits in at Coors, how much that spacious outfield, the acreage, treats him. I think that he could be a guy who DHs there maybe more than you're expecting.
Yeah, we talked about in the Charlie Blackmon preview, you can see a world where Chris Bryant, Sam Hilliard, and Grichuk are all hitting at the same time. Mm-hmm. You feel pretty comfortable with that outfield defensively, too. So I hope the Rockies don't assume a platoon situation, and they let more of the best man win. And if both are hot, then Blackman's able to slot over to DH or whatever makes the most sense defensively. And you can throw Connor Joe into that equation,
Absolutely.
too. There are different options, and it allows, the same way we talked about the bullpen, it allows you to ride the hot hand, both in the lineup and the bullpen with the way the Rockies have constructed this roster.
I like that.
A lot of new faces this season on the Rockies. Also, Chad Kuhl signs a 1-year deal to be the 5th starter. Jose Iglesias to be the team's starting shortstop. What do you think was the shrewdest acquisition? Like the best bang for your buck overall? Chris Bryant, did not come cheap, so I know no one's going to say him. But was there one move that just in and of itself you like the best as saying like, oh no, that's I like what's going on here for this price that the Rockies got to upgrade or even just to fill a hole or a need?
I think Colomé is the one. I still say that they'll look back and say that was a big move for us this year, so I'm going to go with that. But I think that the Iglesias move is going to be the one that's going to be the most under the microscope, and he's in a bad position, let's be honest.
Yeah.
He's got to fill Trevor Story's shoes, and everybody's counting the days till Tovar comes up. He's going to be at a tough spot, so every time that something goes wrong at shortstop, they're all going to be pointing and going, see?
Yep. Yeah. I think in terms of significance, Colomé is in the biggest position to make the biggest difference. But if we talk about price, Ty Block as a minor league free agent with an invitation to spring training, Ben Bowden has just not been the same since that shoulder injury a couple of years ago kind of brought his stuff down a tick. So if Ty Block can give you a full season as a non-roster invite, as a second lefty out of the bullpen, maybe even that spot starter, depending on how Cool plays out. I mean, that can be savvy. That could be the most savvy acquisition of the season.
That's my bold prediction. Ty Block will actually pitch the most innings out of the bullpen this season.
Oh, wow.
Not sexy.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit bold, again, for a guy who's coming off TJ surgery and, still, as the time that we're recording this, isn't even on the 40-man roster yet. So I'm going out there on a little bit of a limb. What kind of bold predictions do you guys have for the bullpen, for the newcomers, or anyone we talked about here in this player preview series?
I'm going to go bold prediction a little negative. I don't think the Iglesias experiment is going to work. And I would say that you're going to see a lot more Alan Trejo maybe than you expected. I will go that direction. And I think that, this is such a bridge to that next generation of Rockies. But I think that Iglesias struggles mightily this season, if I were to predict.
All aboard the Trejo train, man. I'm on it. I've been a fan. Okay, I like that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to dogpile a little bit on the negativity on
okay.
Iglesias.
Let's do it.
I mean, you mentioned he's not in the position to succeed. We talked about earlier, he's the first non-Rocky shortstop in a position to get the most games at the position since Royce Clayton. And Royce Clayton was in between Navy Perez and Clint Barnes. So, I mean, there's lineage. Iglesias is not one of their own. He's not in a great spot. I'm going to go one step further and say this is Jose Iglesias' last major league season. I think he's getting to the point of writing those 1-year deals. If he struggles with Colorado, he becomes a non-roster invite. Maybe he doesn't, crack a roster. I feel like I've seen this story before. So, say this is his last run.
Wow, we may have to have a bonus edition for bold predictions on prospects. Maybe we do see Tovar in September.
Sorry,
I don't know.
Jose.
Hey, yeah,
That's exciting.
Yeah, we'll see you in the clubhouse. But yeah,
We will not be seeing a number 11 jersey on the back of Kenneth Weber
I hope I'm
anytime
wrong.
soon. Or Kevin Henry. They're not going to be wearing a number 11 jersey.
Yeah, just don't see it. What we've seen in spring training so far, at least.
Yeah.
I'm not putting as much stock in spring training. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of years. You know, the decline is starting to show a little bit. I still think the back can play, but the biggest thing is it was a rough 2021 defensively for Jose Iglesias at shortstop. If he does it again, that's one of his biggest assets being taken off the table. And then at that point, I think a lot of teams look and say, really, how much better is a Jose Iglesias than our Alan Trejo?
Well, all right, he's going to have to prove it, just like the Rockies are going to have to prove it. This is going to be an exciting season. Man, really looking forward to opening day. Thank you guys for coming out and joining me. Kenneth Weber from Purple Row, RoxPile and Call to the Pen, Kevin Henry, Patrick Lyons from DNVR Rockies Player Preview Series. That's a wrap. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let's have a season.
Yeah.
Let's do it.